This short video is going to show you how to plot a bearing or direction from one point on your chart to another point using a Portland plotter. We're also going to measure distance using dividers. So I want to know what the bearing is from this point here on my chart to this light here. Now the symbol for a light is a star with a magenta teardrop, and the position of that light is the centre of the star, which is a tiny little circle there. In order to measure a bearing, we're going to use what's called a Portland plotter. Now when you're using a plotter, it's important first of all to see on the plotter we've got this large blue arrow which says direction of bearing. That needs to be pointing in the right way. I'm measuring from here to the light, so I need to turn my plotter around so that the arrow is pointing in the right direction, just roughly to start off with. What you'll also see on the plotter is that we have a compass rose, which will move around. We can rotate it. And what you can see is we've got two little blue arrows. We need to make sure those two blue arrows are pointing to the top of our chart, which is north. We also have on our Portland plotter, on the rose here, we've got a grid, which you can see as we rotate it. In order to make sure north is exactly pointing to north, we need to line up one of these lines on the grid over a line of either latitude or longitude. It doesn't matter which. So to measure the bearing from here to here, the first thing we need to do is actually line up our plotter. So we line up the edge of our plotter with our 2 points. The arrow, the direction of bearing, is correct here. North is pointing more or less to north, but it's not exactly pointing to north. I'm just going to exaggerate this a little bit. I want to make sure that one of these lines on the grid is over a line of either latitude or longitude. Now I've got a line of longitude running along here, and I can see that my dial is not lined up properly. So what I need to do is rotate the dial. Now at the moment the line on the dial is close to parallel with my line of longitude, but it's not actually on it, so I'm going to slide my plotter along a little bit, making sure I stay in my spot. Double check to make sure I'm lined up, and I can see this line is pretty much now over the top of this line of longitude. If it's not, all you just need to do is rotate the dial. I now know that north is pointing to north, so I can read off the bearing, and the easiest way to do this is turn it the right way around so that you can read it. And what we're looking at is what the dial says next to the 0 with the arrow, and that says 229 degrees. So it's a bearing of 229 degrees from this point here to the light over here. The other thing I want to know is, well, how far away is it? And this is where I use a set of dividers. Now, ideally you use the dividers so they're crossed over in this way here, but I can open them up more fully if I need to. I'm going to use them crossed over. So I put one point of my dividers, my point there, the other the centre of the star on my light, and then remember we use the latitude scale to measure distance, so put one point of the dividers on our latitude scale and then read off what the distance is to where the next point is. So 1 minute of latitude equals 1 mile. This is 1 minute, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes, and then each of these little gradations are 0.2 of a minute, so that's 6.2, 0.4, 6.4 minutes, so that's 6.4 miles. So from my start here to the light is 6.4 miles, and it's a bearing of 229 degrees. So that is how you use a Portland plotter and a set of dividers to measure bearings and distance.